Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chat. Not as good as 50 hours, but hey, it's something. Now, this episode, if I'm not screwing everything up, everything should be back in order for regards to the visual episodes. You should be able to hear me perfectly fine because, now I got the new mic, so everything should be hunky-dory for this, or if you want me to appear on your show, whatever, everything should be all well and good. Okay, so before we get into that, I'm going to go into a little bit of pride. I'm kind of grateful that this video is kind of doing so good compared to other videos that I've done in this time frame. I know the fact that this is 230 and the fact that this it's been a little over a week, you should be shouldn't that naturally? But no, sadly, that's not how it is. But I am grateful that this is getting hits, and I'm hoping that this trend continues. With that out of the way, let's get right into the news. First, we're going to start off with an L because it happened literally right before I released the last podcast, so I might as well talk about it. Even though this kind of breaks with a trend, Chilean voters overwhelmingly reject the proposed leftist constitution. Sadly, with almost all the ballots counted, 62% of voters rejected the proposal, with 38% voting in favor. Now, I didn't expect it to be that large. I expected, I was holding hope that it was going to win, but, I was thinking that it would, slightly fail. And this has kind of led into a lot of issues. For starters, there is one thing that is kind of glad. You see, because if you know anything, this day is the day that, that's when Salvador Allende lost power. That's when he was overthrowing his coup. And I was thinking that Boric, a good thing that he didn't put it on that day, because if he did, that would have been a huge blow. I'm pretty sure he would have still done something big. I'm pretty sure that he wanted it to succeed, and he was gonna tout it on the 11th and be on this day, our leftist leader was taken away from us, and now we can finally take away the fascist. But the problem is, didn't pass. So this is quite a problem. The Constitution was pretty good, and they actually removed a lot of things to make it more palatable to the right wing. People are concerned, what's going to happen next? Because here's a fact that you don't know. There technically isn't anything left to do. Boric could do literally anything. He could, what Boric has suggested is that he wants to push things back to a referendum. Not push it back to a referendum, but he wants to go, okay, the Constitution as proposed is not good, so we're going to send it back, we're going to rewrite it, and we're going to send it back off to another plebiscite. That's what he wants to do, because as the referendum for the Constitution said, the people of Chile want to vote on their Constitution. But many people are worried and saying that process could take a long time, especially since, apparently, in the Chamber of Deputies and the Senate, they don't have a lot of people left in power. They don't have a lot of people left to have a full-on majority. As such, many people, I'm assuming both on Boric's side and against Boric, are suggesting that instead they just vote on each referendum, vote on each plank of the proposed constitution. That way, they can do whatever they want with that. The thing is, technically, this could have just failed and Boric could just wipe his hands clean of the affair. And everybody would be hunky-dory. And one thing that you might be wondering is, will this hurt or help Boric? From what I'm gathering, it seems that this could actually do a little bit of both. Because everybody was hedging their bets, for lack of a better term. Boric was literally, he was all in on this new constitution. So, on one end, people could say that he has failed in the one thing that he wanted to do, or, due to the fact that this constitution was so looming, many people were probably putting all their eggs into focusing on the Constitution, but now that the Constitution votes behind them, maybe they can look at Boric more objectively. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But that's first for bad news. Why don't we go off with the good news next? Queen Elizabeth is dead. Yeah. Now, as an American and a Mexican, monarchs are just not really my thing. And as a socialist, monarchies are also not my thing. And as an atheist, monarchies are also not my thing. Like, basically every single hedge the bet, monarchies are just not my thing. And Queen Elizabeth, like, I mean, even though everybody's like, Queen Elizabeth, she's like the old funny queen, but it's like, with her death, with every public figure, their death almost immediately leads into everybody scrutinizing their entire record. And I even got into like conversations about this with my mom. I said something, like I showed her a picture and I just said nice, and then she's like, she got really mad that I was like nice to the queen dying, and I'm just like, I mean, if you know anything about the queen, you would know that no good. Like, let me go over some of the things that many people have been talking about. Queen Elizabeth suggested that Princess Diana shouldn't talk about people with AIDS. Like Princess Diana, one of her big things was like being the advocacy princess, that she wanted to actually change the world for the better. That's one of the reasons why, despite the fact the royal family is considered very atrocious, Princess Diana is still held to an extremely high regard, even amongst people who do not like monarchies or do not like the royal family. Diana is still held in an extremely high regard, and that's interesting. But like Elizabeth, of course, was one of the people I was like, no. Another thing is that there was an incredibly suspect moment that happened when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were pregnant. There were rumors spreading around that somebody in the palace, somebody in the royal family, or at least a decent number of members of the royal family, were afraid that their child would become too ethnic. And I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm going to take a wild guess that the 96-year-old probably was one of the people raising the concerns. Not to be ageist, but in fact to be incredibly ageist, because I don't care. But one of the biggest things that many people have been pointing out recently is that, like, Queen Elizabeth is one of the last ties to colonialism that we have in the modern world, at least in regards to figures. Now, we don't mean this in an esoteric sense of like, oh, the queen, she had like, her institution had a long history of colonialism and blah, blah, blah. Like, no. I mean, Queen Elizabeth herself was the queen during many colonialist ventures, particularly in regards to Africa. Like, there was a tweet that was spreading around afterwards where people noticed that there was like a Kenyan freedom fighter, and she was like, I just want Queen Elizabeth to give me what I want. This was before the queen passed away. And it was basically like, she revealed that she was tortured because of orders from the queen, because of how the colonialist adventures pan out. It's just, like, I mean, and it's like, who cares? She's, like, again, as an American, we fought against the monarchy, ergo, no monarchy, we don't care. There's really not much else to say. I really don't care that much about the royal family. The only thing I can really say is that Prince Charles must be giddy today, because he's fine. Like, the thing that everybody joked about, he's finally king now. Not for long, but he will be king. Anyways, the next story is actually two stories coming from Mexico, and this is where we're going to start talking about some goodish news. This one's kind of like mixed, but basically here's what happened. The PRI in Mexico announced that they were going to be proposing an amendment that would make the armed forces remain in the streets until 2028. Okay, so basically the bill is, Amnesty International asked AMLO to withdraw the army from the streets after 2024. I mean, this is definitely a thing that happened. Like, the PRI announced that they want to keep the Mexican military on the streets up to 2028 because of, continuing security concerns with Mexico. It's Mexico. What do you expect? And everybody is confused because, like, the PRI is supposed to be one of the people who are criticizing MORENA, but people are concerned because the pre-bill has actually gotten the support of MORENA, because MORENA is the government, so they would be the ones in charge with how the armed forces are put forth. And it also has the support of Verde Ecologista, which is the PVM. Like, those three parties are the ones that are pushing for this amendment. It seems that PT is remaining strong in their opposition. Maybe? For his part, the deputy coordinator of PT, Gerardo Fernandez Sonora, pointed out that his bench will agree to support the initiative of Deputy Yolande De La Torre, since he considered it a necessity to face the violence that exists in the country. Is this a different one? Is this a different amendment, or is this the same amendment? So, is PVM, I guess PVM is proposing their own version of this bill. But anyways, beside the point. This bill is a mixed bag, but it is a W to a degree. For one thing, this is going to be funny. Check this out. MORENA goes by pre-proposal so that the armed forces remain in the streets until 2028. Due to this bill and the negotiations that the PRE and MORENA are having, it has been announced that the PAN and the PRD are suspending the Va por Mexico alliance. Temporarily. They're temporarily banning the Va por Mexico alliance due to the fact that the PRE is negotiating with MORENA. So they're seeing it as like a betrayal of the alliance, because the whole point of the alliance was to oppose MORENA. And, many people are saying, this could spell trouble, because how long is this temporary suspension? My guess would be that the suspension is going to end by 2024, gearing up for the next presidential election. But the thing is, this could also be a sign for another party. You see, with all this going on about like the pro-AMLO side, the anti-AMLO side, the MC, Movimiento Naranja, Movimiento Ciudadano, or the Citizens Movement, they have remained steadfast as they're continued, they're the principled opposition to AMLO. And I find it interesting that that's happening. And with this, I'm going to have to say this. Mark my words, this is what's going to happen come 2024. Come 2024, this is how it's going to be for 2024. MORENA is going to be the most likely to have a big W that day. The Citizens Movement is probably the most likely opposition party to have a president aside from MORENA. The PAN is probably the only other people who can also mount that opposition. The PRE technically has a slight chance because they're still pretty big. PVM and PT, very unlikely. It's more likely they're just going to back whoever MORENA backs. And these guys have absolutely no chance. And yes, you could tell the PRE or D shouldn't really belong here, but there really is no chance. And mark my words, these are the 5 people that have the most likely chance of becoming Mexico's next president. Claudia Sheinbaum, Marcelo Ebrard, Luis Donaldo Colosio Rojas, Ricardo Anaya, and Sam Garcia Sepulveda, I think that's his name. Those are the people that are going to be the most likely to be president come 2024 in Mexico. Mark my words. So anyways, now let's move on to the next story. Another W. I didn't talk about this story because, truthfully, I didn't want to talk about this story until I actually got results. And it was, I talked about the beginning of the story, Keffel's leading her charge against, not leading her charge. I only talked about, Keffel's being, being harassed by KIWIFARMS. And I think it was technically, I talked about the brief precursor of her fighting back against KIWIFARMS. But I'm happy to report that it seems that it has worked, because KIWIFARMS is no longer available. She's actually managed to pull it off. KIWIFARMS is literally just inaccessible. You can't go to KIWIFARMS. You can't follow any links to KIWIFARMS. you just can't go there anymore. Now, I don't know if this, because I'm seeing that they almost had me there. I think they almost had me there. NGINX. I don't even want to be on record saying it as a word, but this website, I don't know. Like I checked what this website was, and I think it's a host provider, or it might be like a archive. So maybe KiwiFarms is gonna try and rise back up, but like, I mean, as far as we know, KiwiFarms is down and Keffel's won. Keffel's finally did a ratio that actually did damage. So anyways, now let's move on to some bad news. First, there was a thing that was being pushed around by the DNC to ban dark money in primaries. Shock of all shocks, they didn't even allow it to get to a vote. I mean, this is kind of obvious. I was hoping that at the very least that it would get a vote, but sadly it didn't even get a vote. They didn't allow it to get to a vote. Like, it was like brought to like the specific committee to do this. It's like a House bill. They brought it to a specific committee that would talk about this issue, and that committee said, no, we're not going to talk about this issue, and they just shelved it. Technically, there's still potential, like, I hope there's potential, like, pushes. Like, right here, it's like, tell Democrats to ban dark money from primaries today. And it's like, despite claiming to be against dark money, they refuse to. Basically, it's like, call this number and you can get them to ban dark money. But again, I don't think they're going to allow this vote to come to a pass. Not much else to say. Now, the last big news one is Big Nothing Burger. Yuh-Line Niou announces that she will not run as the Working Families Party candidate against Dan Goldman. Stinks. But that means it can technically go on record and saying that it wasn't wrong for me to not back Yuh-Line Niou, because if she actually did run, I would have had to say she was the better progressive. But now I can still say that she's not, because Mondaire Jones didn't run. She didn't either, but she actually toyed with the idea of running. So technically, she's still worse, in my opinion. Though it is for incredibly petty reasons. I still say that somebody should do it. Somebody should try. Give me the Working Families Party line in this state. I'll do better than them. So there's really not much else to say. This was just a slight update of the thing that I was already talking about. If I didn't talk about it, I wouldn't have talked about this. But since I actually did push for this, I should let people know that this is going to happen. With that out of the way, let's move on to the main topic of this video. We're going to be taking the DozenValues quiz. What is the DozenValues quiz? DozenValues is a political test that aims to map different political perspectives onto 6 axes. You will be presented with a statement and a set of responses from strongly agree to strongly disagree. Pick a response that best fits your reaction to give the given statement, and remember to answer honestly. At the end of the quiz, you will be presented with your results. Some questions affect multiple axes. It's very unlikely to get 100% for any value, so don't be alarmed if your response seems more moderate than you expect. What are the 12 values? There are 6 independent axes: ownership, equality or property, market, coordination or commerce, power, dominion or anarchy, autonomy, permission or restriction, identity, inclusivity or supremacy, progress, novelty or heritage. What is the closest match? Once the results are generated, our test will try to assign you to an ideology. One out of the 239 we have: project leader, quark, original idea, questions, solar, questions and matches help bury. Like, these are the Discord people for if you want to do it yourself. And like I said, there are there are a lot of matches. Oh, they actually do have Cardenismo. No way. Man, they're giving me so many ideologies that I want. I actually wanted to suggest them to do Cardenismo, but they actually do have Cardenismo. Yeah, like I said, look, they have a lot of ideologies to be in this quiz. And I'm actually kind of curious what one I'm going to get. Well, they even have yellow socialism? Transhumanism, of course they have transhumanism. Technopopulism, social libertarianism, social Georgism, social anarchism, right-wing populism, religious, like I said, They have a lot of ideologies. I don't know which ones I want the most, but that's not really the point of the quiz. Obviously, you're not supposed to want a specific ideology. You're supposed to try and get the ideology you get. So let's figure it out. If I had to take a guess, it'll probably be. I can't even take a guess because all these ideology quizzes, like, they give me whatever. They give me a lot of different ideologies, which is why I've kind of rejected just saying ideology. They only say, like, broad ideologies like socialism or democratic socialism. Okay, so let's just get to it. Got it or got it shuffled? It doesn't really matter because I did this quiz, but not actually to do the quiz and not even paying attention to the questions. I just clicked through them all to see what I could get. But anyways, let's just get to it. Euthanasia should be legal. Strongly agree. Politicians should not exist. I'm going to have to say a slight disagree because, I mean, to an extent, maybe yes, but in the real sense, politicians will always exist. As long as we have, like, governments and institutions that allow for people to make policies, politicians will technically exist. Property shouldn't be held by a few select individuals. Strongly agree, I guess. Let me think. Yeah, of course, strongly agree. Because, again, I'm trying to remember, like, both philosophical and modern, like, I do believe that it shouldn't be held by a few individuals. Property should be available for everybody. It is important to respect religion. Agree, because I think if I put strongly agree, it would imply that I'm, like, extremely ethno-religious, whatever. But I'm only going to put agree because, yes, we should respect people's religions in the sense that we should respect, like, their freedom to believe in whatever they want, but also I have to put neutral on this. I'll just put agree. Any sexual activity is fine as long as everyone involving is consenting adult. Strongly agree. Independent websites should not be required to tolerate content that violates their policy. Ooh. Agree asterisks. I am more of a free speech absolutist, but I'm assuming this is for more, like, explicit bad things like hate speech or CP or stuff like that. Like, of course, ban that. There should be always a limit. It is deplorable that unions forced non-consenting workers to strike. Strongly disagree. I would assume that they're not forcing them to strike. Like, I don't even think that's a thing. It would be a shame to see minority language go extinct. I mean, kind of, yeah. We should at least have the language be readily available to people. Like, I saw this video. Oh, let me go back just so I can have the question on the thing. Like, I saw this video of, like, this indigenous woman, and she's, like, from a very, like, she was, like, a child from a very offset tribe, and, like, all the members of her tribe are dead, and she is literally the only person that speaks her native language, and she was an old lady, so it's like, she will soon be dead, and her language will be gone forever, and I think it's, like, a lot of us don't even know what she's saying. So it's like, yeah, it kind of stinks. It's not healthy for children to be raised by gay couples. Strongly disagree. It's perfectly healthy for them to be raised by gay couples. Have you ever seen the gay penguins? They raise children fine. All workers worldwide deserve to be freed from capitalism. The right to start a business is fundamental to a thriving economy. Technically agree. Like, I mean, you should technically be able to start a business, but of course, like, I guess it depends on who's starting the business. Physical violence should be used against those who oppose my views. You see, because this is a loaded question, because some of the people who oppose my views would also oppose my views in regards to violence, so I'll just put neutral, because I would say there's some instances where physical violence should be used against the people who oppose my views, but only if they are using violence themselves. Workers should have more of a say in production. Strongly agree. Workers in essential parts of the economy should not be allowed to strike. Absolutely disagree. In fact, they should be given extra abilities to strike. Local governments should be more powerful than national governments. This is always the thing, because it's like, what if it's a local government doing a good thing that a national government isn't doing? Like in Brazil, when when the states wanted to push for, I'll just put broadly disagree. Because that argument can also leads to like states' rights, and like states' rights to do what? Nations thrive when presided over by strong, capable governments. Sounds a little fashy, to be honest. This sounds like code for fascism, to be honest. I'll be real. So... This sounds like fashy coded. So just because it's fashy coded, I'll put disagree. Hierarchy should be dismantled. Agree. Broadly agree. Like, I mean, technically there'll still always be some form of hierarchy, but I also want a majority of the hierarchies to be gone. Like, at the very least, like, the hierarchies in regards to a lot of how, like, normal people would be. Regulations can often harm the people they aim to protect. No. Society should embrace multiculturalism, absolutely. Welfare for disabled people should be cut. Absolutely not. Society must unite behind a central authority in order to be cohesive. That is definitely like not. That is like the most fash-coded sentence you could think of. So I'm gonna put strongly disagree. Women are more naturally nurturing than men. Disagree. To a technical degree, yes. But to a technical degree, men can also technically fit that role. Eugenics should be used to genetically remove disabled individuals. Absolutely not. The nation comes before all else. Absolutely not. Eradicating diseases isn't a valid reason to enforce vaccination. Okay, hold on. Let me read this. Eradicating diseases isn't a valid reason to enforce vaccination. So if I agreed with this, that would mean I agree that this is with the sentence. I believe it is a completely valid reason, and we should enforce vaccination. The COVID pandemic literally made me be in favor of vaccine mandates. People are whatever gender they say they are. Let me just check that question again. Eradicating diseases isn't a valid reason. It's an incredibly valid reason, so strongly disagree. People are whatever gender they say they are. Absolutely. Leadership should be passed on hereditarily. I just talked about at the beginning, fuck the monarchy, so strongly disagree. Everybody should benefit from a basic income to spend how they like. Strongly agree. If people want to live unhealthy lifestyles, it's their right to do so. Agree. Sometimes vigilante justice is necessary. I'm just saying, lynching was also vigilante justice. But, to a degree, Black Panthers were also vigilante justice. And, obviously, Black Panthers are not lynching. So, I'll have to put neutral, case-by-case basis. We should replace the central bank with alternative credit forms such as free banking. I've never heard of this term free banking before, so I'll look it up. Free banking is a monetary arrangement where banks are free to issue their own paper currency while also subject to no special regulations beyond the acceptable to most enterprises. Frederick Hayek supports this, so obviously it's bad. So I'll put disagree. Equality between men and women is desirable, absolutely. With open borders comes major economic benefits. I mean, I don't know. Would benefits happen? Like, I mean, I know I'm not 100% trying to say like things go bad with open borders, because if I said that, that would be racist. Even though I'm the race that would benefit the most of, like, anyways, it definitely wouldn't cause benefits, but it also wouldn't cause harm either, or at least depending on what you mean. I mean, I guess technically it would supply more workers, so technically it would be economic benefits, but those economic benefits don't necessarily help the people in need. So I'll just put neutral. Income tax should be abolished. Nope. Landlords provide an essential service. Niall, this is for you. Landlords provide an essential service. I just wanted to see you. I just wanted you to see me do this again. Gathering of personal data by companies is legitimate. Strongly disagree. Some sexual orientations are to be socially favored. No. The populace cannot govern themselves. To an extent, disagree. Because I'm for the people, obviously 100%. But sometimes, let's be real, the people are not that smart. But they can be. We can help them become smarter. And maybe one day, I will say strongly disagree. Our national resources don't belong to foreign capital. What is this specifically? I guess I just have to put neutral. No, wait. I'm trying to think. I don't want to put neutral for a lot of these questions. Our natural resources don't belong to foreign capital. I guess I'll put slightly agree. We should not engage in offensive warfare. Strongly agree. Local councils should have more power to implement economic policies. Trying to think. I think this is Marxian, but I don't know much about this, so I had to put neutral. Altering our language to make it more gender inclusive is not a bad idea. Strongly agree. Life without the state would be nasty, brutish, and short. To be honest, strongly agree. We shouldn't let people do things that will put them in danger. Neutral. It depends on what it is and the specific instances. Everybody should be provided with a job. Yes. People should be allowed to use their terrain however they please. Agree? Abandoned property should be free to use by any individual. Absolutely. Gender should be abolished. Man, I keep scrolling up. I keep scrolling up just so I can see how many questions I have left. Gender should be abolished. Sure. It's not really a forefront issue for me, but it's like, sure. Individual gender is determined by their chromosomes. Strongly disagree. We should increase tariffs on imports in order to help local producers. Strongly agree. It's wasteful to have so many different brands of the same good. Kind of, yeah. Workplaces should not be required to close on Sundays or during religious festivals. Yeah, they shouldn't be required to close on Sundays. It's up to their individual thing. Intellectual property is legitimate. Let me check the textbook definition of intellectual property. I know what intellectual property is, but it's like, how far is it? Intellectual property, or IP, is a category of property that includes intangible creations of the human intellect. There are many types of intellectual property, some countries more than others. They're based on those copyrights, patents, trademarks, or trade secrets. Yes and no. Because it's like, yes, but I also believe that public domain should be more readily available to have characters in the public domain, or like patents to expire, or like that kind of stuff. So I'll just put agree. Competition drives innovation. Strongly disagree. Freedom of speech is vital for a healthy society. Strongly agree. The benefits of automation outweigh the costs. Not necessarily. We'd have to address The issue, we have to address the costs before we can even talk about the benefits. Workers should seize the means of production. Yes. Using artificial intelligence to better organize the economy is worth investigating. To a degree, yeah. That was like Allende proposed that, right? I'm pretty sure Allende proposed that. Trespassing should be met with harsh consequences. Strongly disagree. It shouldn't be like fully legal to trespass to a degree. Like, I mean, it depends on what you're trespassing on and what's your intention for the trespassing. But broadly, no, it shouldn't be that. Like, if anything, it should literally just be like you're escorted off the property. That should basically be the punishment. It is better for different people to stay in their own communities. No, that's racism. Well, I mean, it's not racism, it's segregation, which is racism, so I was right the first time. Like-minded individuals should form self-governing communities. Not necessarily, no. This is anarchist talk, and I oppose anarchism. This is commune talk. No communes here. They should form self-governing communities. So yeah, disagree. Just because no communes, we should live in governments. States and governments are what society is. Why else would we have a lot of governments in the society? We should not attempt to mess with nature. To what extent? This is too broad of a question. Are they just talking about like cutting down trees? Because that is kind of needed to help people get more access to land. But it's also like, of course, we shouldn't. I'll just put neutral. International borders should not exist. Neutral. Men make better leaders than women. Strongly disagree. A party of revolutionaries should lead the workers against capitalism. I mean, I guess, technically. Equal opportunity is a must. Equality of opportunity is a must-have. Let me just make sure I get this right. Equality of opportunity is a political ideal that opposed to caste hierarchy, but not to hierarchy per se. Here's a picture that I think explains it. So it wouldn't be equality of outcome, it would be equality of opportunity. So that is, like, I mean, ideally, we should have both, but yeah, opportunities must have. Workers deserve a greater part of what they create. Yes. Theft can never be justified. I would have to put disagree. To an extent, again, it is still morally wrong to steal something that is not yours, but it can be justified. We should move beyond wage systems. This ideal is a little too much for me, so I'll just put disagree, because we still kind of, like, I do believe to an extent that humans do need a sort of profit incentive. Certain ethnic groups are genetically predisposed to violence. Strongly disagree. We should be skeptical of new technologies. Strongly disagree. Taxes should exist on harmful products to discourage their consumption. Oh, because, yeah, this is a problem. Like, I mean, this is a big problem. Like, I mean, I was going to put agree, because, yes, technically would agree, that is good. But it's also like, if you know anything about anything, you know that a cigarette tax is the most common example that is used. But a cigarette tax has essentially become, like, it's essentially a poor people tax, because poor people are more likely to smoke, so it is a poor people tax. Or like high fructose foods. Yeah, sure, big rich people who can afford, like, to drink all the big gulps they want can probably pay for the taxes, but for people in food deserts, they cannot afford an added tax on the bad food they eat. So disagree. Political correctness has gone too far. Disagree. Okay, it is illegitimate to leave the state and live by yourself. Agree. No secession. Sports stars and famous actors are often overpaid. Kind of. An individual can never truly be separate from society. Agree. Nothing is sacred, and we should embrace this. Strongly agree. Industrial capitalism was a great improvement for humanity. Strongly disagree. Government surveillance is an unnecessary evil. Unnecessary, yes, we don't need it. Gay marriage should be legal. Strongly agree. Monarchy is an outdated form of government. Strongly agree. Bosses know what's best for their workers. Strongly disagree. A singular world government is desirable. I would say disagree. It depends on the world government. If you truly have a world government that is of by and for the people, then maybe we can talk. But a one world government would probably just be a dictatorship of some kind. Firearms should be available to the general public. Slightly agree. Remember, I believe that handguns and shotguns should be fine. Those, I can clearly see reasons why people should have those firearms. But anything else seems like overkill. Literally. Equal representation of genders should be mandatory in workplaces. Disagree. It shouldn't be mandatory, but it should be incentivized at the very least. Pornography should be banned. Strongly disagree. A certain type of pornography can be banned. You know the one I'm talking about. But normal ones should be free for consumption. Many industries are too important to be left to the market. Strongly agree. Tyranny by majority is a legitimate concern. I would say, as a populist, I have to say strongly disagree. Expertise, not popular approval, represents the best of worth of a ruler. Strongly disagree. They should be chosen by the people. People should not have to pay for healthcare. Strongly agree. Workers should be encouraged to form cooperatives on their own. To an extent, yeah. Worker co-ops or unions are fine. Not questioning authority is good if it ensures stability. Strongly disagree. Almost all authority should be questioned. The worst criminal should be publicly executed. Disagree. I was going to put strongly disagree, but then I was thinking, there is an extent. There is a limit. If Hitler didn't, do the kerblang in his brain. No, you know what? Morally, I just have to put strongly disagree. The prices of goods should be set by the market. Disagree. It's often necessary to break taboos. What taboos? I'll have to put agree just for the sake of I'm hoping that it means that it is good taboo. Taboos, the taboo of gay marriage, or the taboo of the first autistic person to represent somebody in Congress. Something like that. A taboo that is not, a taboo that is an unnecessary taboo. Space travel shall not be funded by tax money. Technically disagree, but we shouldn't also be giving a lot of money to space travel in the first place, at least not yet. Employers should have the duty to fire workers who engage in internalized discrimination. I didn't even think of that idea. If a worker themselves are doing the discrimination, I guess technically yes. Wealth accumulation leads to the creation of an oppressive class system. Yes. Deportations should be used to ensure ethnic hegemony. Nope. The wealth disparity between the different cultural groups is due to some groups working harder. Nope. In times of crisis, safety takes precedence over liberty. Nope. Life in big cities is unfulfilling. Nope. Every city, every place, some people are unfulfilled. Some people, nature has no inherent value. I would say disagree. It's the place we live. Eminent domain is needed to ensure ethical and efficient usage of the land. Eminent domain. I've heard that a lot. I'm trying to remember exactly what it means. The right of a government or an agent to exploit private property for public use. Strongly agree, yeah. Hate speech against minorities should be a crime. It shouldn't be a crime, but it's I don't believe hate speech should be a crime. Depending on the hate speech, obviously. There's specific types of hate speech that are okay, maybe we have to reconsider. But broadly, hate speech shouldn't be a crime. But again, it's like the free speech argument of a Nazi should have the complete and total right to spew whatever nonsense they want to spew. But they will, of course, also have to realize that them spewing that nonsense will allow them to be pressured, to be put on a position where they have to defend said positions. Like if a Nazi's standing in town hall and is spewing like extremely racist rhetoric, then if a black person gets mad at them and punches them, that's the consequence of their action. If they spew hate speech on Twitter and then they get banned from Twitter, that's a consequence for their actions. But it shouldn't be a crime. Discrimination against obese people is unacceptable. Strongly disagree. Fuck the fat. Ha ha ha. Disagree. No wait, what? I'm trying to remember. What was it? Agree, technically. Oh, I was about to make a really bad decision there. Subsidies should be given to agrarian producers and those who wish to become ones. Yeah. Parents should not send their children to religious schools. Strongly agree. The state should control all aspects of the economy. Well, maybe not all, but like 90% of it, probably. People should not be treated differently because of their origin. Absolutely. Feudalism was not such a bad system. Strongly disagree. Nomadic cultures have a wise relationship with the land than we do. No, that's more fash code words. There should be laws against wearing religious clothing in public. Strongly disagree. Trade unions hurt everyone. Strongly disagree. Some ideas are too dangerous to be given a platform. Yeah. There is no reason why children should stay with their biological parents. I mean, yeah, technically. If the parents are like molesting them or abusing them, then sure, they should have the freedom to leave. A large welfare state breeds an unhealthy culture of reliance. Strongly disagree. In the future, we should improve our own biology with technology. Agree. My culture is worth protecting. I'm a minority, so technically me saying this isn't fash code word, but we have to remember this was a test probably made by people who is gonna like a 90% of the people who are taking this quiz and might have made this quiz are white people, so I have to put neutral. I'll just put neutral. Traditional gender roles are unnecessary. Strongly agree. There should be certain rules and standards that apply all across all of society. I guess, technically. If it is tradition to perform some surgeries on babies, it should be done. No. This is a circumcision quiz. Ban circumcision. In an ideal society, money... Wait, hold on. If it's tradition to perform some surgeries on babies, it should be done. This is definitely supposed to be like genital mutilation, like, coded. In an ideal society, money would not exist. I guess, and I don't know. All government intervention in the economy should be opposed. Strongly disagree. No one but me can adequately represent my political views. I wouldn't necessarily say that. There are people who come close, and it's adequate, but, you know, it's not perfect, but it's adequate. Prostitution should be allowed. Absolutely. All drugs should be decriminalized. Absolutely. Inheritance should be abolished. Absolutely. We should return to a simpler, less materialistic way of living. This is anarcho-primitivist talk. But this is also good. Less materialistic. Neutral. If someone is first to claim an area of land, they are entitled to profit from it. Disagree. An individual should be allowed to do whatever they want with their body. Strongly agree. There are moral rules in which should never be broken. I'll say agree and close my eyes. 3, 2, 1. Okay, the results. Ownership axis, socialist, 79.9%. Equality, 20.1%. Property, alright. Market axis, regulated, 68.8%. Coordination, 31.2%. Commerce. Power axis dispersed. Dominion 38.9 and anarchy 61.1. But I made a whole video just debunking anarchism. Autonomy axis lenient. Permission and restriction 70.1, 29.9. Identity axis inclusive 79.2, 20.8. Okay, are there any more? Let me see. I want to check. Like 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there's one more. Progress axis, neotortic. Heritage, 38.2. Novelty, 61.8. And the closest match is libertarian socialism. The next matches are 21st century socialism. Yes! I did it! I got socialism of the 21st century. Like, I mean, the first time I saw this, I was legitimately like, I want to get the socialism of the 21st century. And I did it. It was so close. Yes, I told you. Pink tide forever. I knew it. And libertarian communism. That's definitely a thing. Okay, let's see the full results. See, here we are. Libertarian socialism, 21st century socialism, libertarian communism. Here it is. Here are all the axes. Wow. Wow, that's interesting. I mean, libertarian socialism. Me and libertarian socialism go way back. But yeah, I like the fact that I got 21st century socialism on my first try. I didn't even try to skew the results. I just got it. Yeah! So, I guess there's really all I have to say on that. If you want to take the DozenValues test, I'll include the link in the description. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to notify when a future video comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website, follow me on Twitter, join my Discord, check out my articles on the independent political report, or consider supporting me on Patreon.